Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's class. I'm super excited to be meeting you today for today's section. So, who is present in class? Can you quickly use the chat box and let me know who I'm starting the class with? And good morning to you. All right, so I'll proceed to share my Figma screen. Start of the class from where we stopped the previous time. So, as of last week, we had we were discussing are different. So they are different. So you have to be mindful of the one you are using and when you are using it. Okay. So moving forward, in the auto layout feature. So now I have by so currently this is just a text, but I want to convert it to a button using the auto layout feature. And also I don't want to start creating a button by writing a text and adding a rectangle and grouping them together. So a quicker fix is to use the auto layout feature, which I've already written my text, Shift A on my keyboard, we convert it to an auto layout button, which you are currently seeing right now. So now this text has become an auto layout button. And if I click on my layer panel, you can see that it has an auto layer frame attached to it. So now that we have this button, it's lacking a fill background. And as you can see, immediately I made it an auto layout background. The layout here appeared. So Control Z, let's undo it so you see what we have. When it is still a normal text, look at the features available. The features available are this, as you can see. But once you do Shift A, immediately you convert it to an auto layout button or text or put it in an auto layout frame, you have this auto layout feature appear immediately. So now before we proceed to that, I will have to give it a background first so that it will look like a normal button while we proceed. So let's say we have something like this, though this color is awful, but we're just working with a sample. So we have this. This is what an auto layer button looks like. But right now, this particular button has a default auto layout setting, meaning that the settings were being set by Figma and we need to adjust it and make it look more usable. So to do that, coming to this auto layout button, this. We will explain it better when we have multiple elements we're working with. But just since we're starting with a baby step, I will come over to this other place. So right now, even here is off. I'll still come back to this, but right now, I think the first thing we should be looking out for right now, because we are dealing with a button, is looking at this button now. You can see that there is not enough space between this letter and the end of this rectangle. So this is what we call padding. Padding is the spaces, sorry, margin. Margin is the space between the content, the write-up or whatever you put inside that auto layout, and the boundary of that auto layout border. So to fix that, we have a padding of 10. Sorry, the right now we're dealing with padding. This when we have, let me say I have two rectangle. Okay, just let's move along. Let me not confuse you with imaginary scenario right now. So right now, clicking on this, we are being told that the padding is 10 pixels. So let's increase this padding to 50 so that you can see what padding is all about. So padding is referring to the space between this and this. So if I you can see that when I hover, I see my mouse telling me that the value we have here is 50. If I do same, we also have, this is the left and the right padding. We have the top and bottom padding. So for the top and bottom padding, it is still at 10. So this, you can see this, what's it called? This icon here, notifying you of the kind of padding it is, telling you that it deals with the side by side padding, while this other one tells you that it's dealing with the top and bottom padding. All right, to proceeding, we have this. Then the next thing we could do to make our button look better is to give it a corner radius. So we can have a corner radius of 20, and you can see that our button is looking more like the buttons we used to know when we come across it on websites and mobile application. So now one could ask, um, why are we doing this? Right now, let's say that I've created this button and or the client says, I don't want the text to be buy and win. It should be buy, travel, buy, win, and travel. Can you see how this thing adjusted itself immediately? And remember in our previous video, when we did it with rectangle and text, if the client decides that, okay, they don't want the text to be this anymore, they want it to be buy, win, and travel, it will require you adjusting the text and also adjusting the rectangle so that they can all fit in. So imagine in a situation whereby you have applied this rectangle in over 100 positions on the website or on the mobile application, then you get to start going one after the other to do that. So you see that it is very, very stressful. And also in a situation whereby we have the button in multiple areas in a page or in a website, even to come and start doing it like this is not is not advisable. That is why in Figma we have another feature called component. So we're still going to move to component, but before you get to component, you should have made that in an auto layout, whereby if you need to change that thing or the text, it should be able to expand to accommodate it. Okay, now let's watch this. Maybe the client said they don't want to win anymore. We just have to remove win, and you can see how this auto layout frame, it is responsive, it is elastic. Now another thing you should bear in mind now when it comes to this auto layout is uh the hog, this resizing features, the hog. So let me click here so that you see. We have the hog, we have the fix, we have the minimum width, we have the max width. And this auto layout is not limited to only button designs. When you start designing cards, frames, maybe website frames, You want your website frames to be in a certain, we'll still get to that. But right now it is on hug. And what does hug mean? Hug means we want this auto layout to hug or any size of elements we put inside it. So let's say we say win, travel. Can you see? Immediately I reduce the content to only comma. It's hugged, it's shrinked to meet the size of the element inside it. So Control Z now. Let's say we have travel, win, and slay. Can you see? It's the auto layout is like elastic. It will the auto layout feature of asking it to hug is like elastic, asking it to, no matter the size of the element, you should hug it. Then coming to here where we have fixed width. So now, though it is in auto layout, but we've asked an element of the auto layout called fixed width to also limit the size to which the auto layout can expand. So right now we have put this thing to fixed width. Let's see how it is. Another thing you should bear in mind is watch this. Watch my screen. If I click on the frame, I can see that the frame is on fixed width, but the height is still on hog. Now, let's click on the content inside the auto layout. So if I click on the buy, win, travel, and slay, you can see that itself is also on resizing of hog. Now, let's try, I've not changed it yet. Let's try reducing the text now. Remember that the change the text that is currently on hog. Can you see what is happening now? Because I set the auto layer width to fixed, it is no longer hogging the content. But for the content is on hog. The text is on hog. So the text is now going to hog. Okay, let's make the text fixed so you see what happens when that happens. Control Z. So now currently we're working on text. Let's put the text on fixed. So now that the text is also on fixed and the auto layout width is also on fixed, let's remove some elements. Can you see what is happening? What is happening is that the auto layer, this frame, the width is on fixed. The buy and win travel is also on fixed. So what the buy and win is doing now is you've set me on fixed. That means I will just stay where I am. You don't want me to move. But if I set the auto layout, the buy and win itself to be on hog, it will centralize itself immediately. Now, we will also saw another feature say fill container. So right now, remember, watch the one that is currently selected. It is the buy and win, not the auto layout frame. So now we have fill container. It is expanding to fill the container. So it depends on the reaction you want at that very element. So as you can see, the more I'm typing, let's say I'm typing, it is just there because I have set it to what I have set it to, it should fill up the container. Now let me ask it to hug the container. The text is going to hug the container because the container already have a specified instruction that we want the auto layout frame to be fixed. Control Z. Now let's make the auto layout. I'm going back to select the auto layout. I'm going back to make it hook the content, and also come back here to the buy and win and make the buy and win hug the content. So you can see that when the auto layout frame and the element inside it is both hugging, they both come together to work in unison. Then when you ask it to fixed, remember that the auto layout is now elastic. We've given it the ability to hug. Now we are putting the text to fixed. Let's see how it reacts. You can see that the text is just there because if you've instructed the text to be fixed, while the auto layout but mother frame that is housing it is on hog. So you have to be mindful of these instructions when working. So let's put it back to hog container, where this is also on hog container. So this should help you or give you clearer insights when you start doing yours and it's behaving in a certain way. You should check the you should check the what's it called, the instructions on how you have set it. So right now we're going to design and auto. Okay, now let's do this again. Let me use the button to explain further. So there are some buttons you'll see, and you'll see control D. Remember that control D is to duplicate. But what I'm looking for now is I want to create a button that has an icon. I want to create a button that has an icon. So my auto layout, my feather icon, it's loading. Why? Okay. So let's say we have a buy cart. So have a cart icon, and then I have. Okay. So I'm just making X to come. Then I'll come to this. I told you that Control Shift R is to replace. Okay. Control Shift R, sorry. Now we have two elements inside this we have two elements inside this auto layout, an icon and a text. So we have these two things being creating this button. So we can say buy and win. So the name of this button is buy and win. And you can see that we have two elements. So we have the button and the text element. So if we click on this auto layout, you can see we have the cart, we have the buy and win. Then if we click on the mother frame that is housing it, we are having this telling us that the space, the gap between these elements, which is the margin. Some people could call it margin, you could call it gap, you can call it spacing, but you can say Figma is naming it as gap. Also, in your own, you might not see this flow, resizing, alignment, gap, padding being named on it specifically. So in order to get that, you are going to come to this opacity option, click on the drop down icon, then scroll up. You'll see these property labels. So currently my own is checked. That's why you could see the namings on each of them. So right now it's gone. So in order to have yours, depending on your preference, if you want it displayed, if you want it removed, the choice is yours. So I had to have my own enabled to help you newbies understand and know, get familiar with these elements. So currently, this gap is telling us that the spacings between these two elements is 10. So let's make it 42 and you see the difference. Okay, let's give it 120 so that you can see clearly. So you can see where the gap affects. To see where this padding affects, it's the boundaries, the spaces between the elements and the boundaries. That is where the padding, that is where the padding affects. So get familiar with it. And right now we can see this We've explained this. Then you can see that it has the option to tell you to put it by default, automatic this thing. So width set to fixed for frame this thing, meaning that you're asking Figma to give it an automatic spacing or automatic gap measurement. So depending on what you want. If you don't want it on automatic, you can go back to a specific figure, or by yourself still select a specific number and impute there. Now, the next one we are going to talk about is uh, the alignment. We'll come back to the clip content. I think I've discussed clip content. Yeah, I discussed clip content when we were working on the coffee app for the overflowing element when we don't want to see it. Which one of you asked on the chat box whether this disappearing, sorry, blind icon is the same thing as clip content? And I answered saying that no, it's not. So bear that in mind. So the next one we're talking about is alignment. Basically, what is alignment? Alignment is how you want the content inside a frame, inside the auto layout frame, the position by which you want that thing to be in. So currently now, this one is on the align left, align left middle, because here you can see that this is addressing the top, this is addressing the middle, and this is addressing the bottom. So how do we even know that it's align left? Now watch. If I start expanding this, can you see that this element is not following, it is not moving along with me? If I start addressing it down or expanding it, can you see that it is just clicking to this position? So no matter how this frame is being affected, this element will just remain in that position you have set it to. So now if I set it to align top, can you see that it has aligned top? It is just going to stay there. So whatever business you're doing, it doesn't concern it because you've given it an instruction that you want the content in this auto layout frame. I said that the auto layout frame is, so you're asking this auto layout frame to align whatever you put inside it to the top. If you align it to the bottom, the same thing. If you align it to the middle bottom, if you align it to the center, you can see no matter how you extend this, it will just to maintain that balance. If you want it to the top, if you want it this other way, depending on how you want the alignment, it will follow your instruction. So alignment helps you align your text how you want it to be. So that is what alignment does. So Control Z to go back. Okay. We could talk about flow. So okay, I mean, so now when it comes to flow, this helps you put things in free form. For example, okay, for us to explain it better, maybe we could use shapes to do that and see how it works. So let's use shapes to test out the free flows so that as it is changing, we can be taken along with the experience, or we can all experience the behavior or the effect. So let me just give this in a corner radius of 1001. Let me see. Okay. Then we have another shape. Okay. And do Shift A. So Shift A have added an auto layout to them. So now that we have an auto layout, you can see that this our gap have added another feature to itself. Why? Because we're having two levels of elements. So now this gap is telling us the spacings between this, and this here. And it is also telling us the spacing between these top people, the people in the top building and the people in the down building. So it's telling us that the spacings between the up and the down is 55, while the individual spaces between the first three elements on top is 135. Then you can also see how it's aligning to the bottom, to the, so you can see how it's doing its thing. And you can see the difference in icon because now we have multiple elements, no longer one. So now we have this. Why did we do this? We did this so that you can see how the freeform and this other one works. So let's try freeform and see what it does. Okay, freeform didn't do much here for us to see a visible experience. Then you can see what vertical auto layout direction did. It aligned everything uh, downwards. Same with horizontal. Horizontal pushes everything to be well aligned. And then, as you can see that immediately we stopped having the upstairs and the downstairs, you can see that the gap went back to how to displaying only uh, the horizontal gap, and the alignment also have those elements. It doesn't have those multiple. If you try your own, you see the difference between the icons from what we had earlier. Then we have this. Uh, this is the grid. This helps align. So Control Z. Watch what happens here now. Remember that we have this. So I'm just extending this because it wasn't over. It, like for example, it was like this before. It was giving this overflowing effect, and I don't want that. So not that it is affecting it, but visibly looking at it, I need it to accommodate properly. Then looking at it also, you can see this auto layout icon. Immediately, I change this to grid because you can see that we are seeing grid better because this grid option is a new option in Figma and it's still under beta testing. When you hear that an application is under beta testing, it means that it has been developed, but they are putting it out there so that users can use it and then they can see how it is responding. So as the users use it, the engineers, the developers, the designers, they will be seeing how it is being applied and they can be amending it and making it more better. So when you hear beta testing, it means that that particular feature is not yet done. It's still under testing. They are watching how users are using it and they are looking out for how to make it better and how to make it more faster and less stressful for users. So I'm just explaining what beta testing means. So you seeing grid and seeing better in it means that they are telling you that that feature is under beta testing. So you can see horizontal and other ones, they don't have that beta on them because Figma team and engineers have tested these other ones and yeah, they are good with how it's reacting. So um that's the difference. So clicking on grid now, can you see that immediately it went to grid? This thing changed from auto layout to what? It's still an auto layout, but the frame icon has changed. So it is still bearing auto layout, but it is different from this auto layout icon. So you have to be mindful of that while working. So this grid basically creates equal room cells. And I'm going to use cell as CELL to explain what I'm trying to say. Just like a prison, everybody has equal room cells. So what grid does is to create equal rooms for everybody inside that auto layout, which as you can see is this. And also here, it is telling us that this is now a grid. Even though it's in an auto layout, it's now a grid. The grid is now overriding, even though the name is still auto layout and it is part of auto layout features. So here we are seeing that it's telling us that this is grid, this is 4 by 4 grid. If you need it to be expanded, you can just, as you're moving your mouse, I'm not even dragging, I'm just moving my mouse around. It's asking me to select the number of cell, that is columns and rows that I want to create. So it's just like in your Excel sheet, that kind of effect or experience, if you know what I'm talking about. So that's what is happening here. So I could do this. Later, I just tap enter. That is what will happen. Also, even if I want to create grid without going through the process of creating circle, rectangle, and stars, and then converting to auto layout, if I just click out, you can see that the grid is still there. But if I stop highlighting this frame, I won't see anything again. But if I hover around, I will still see it. Why? Because our fill option, our fill option is was not activated. And aside from that, in this situation, I think, mm, let's see what stroke looks like. So as you can see, this is what happens. But when you click on it, you see it. But another thing I wanted to say is that even if I want to create grid without starting with this process, I can just select my frame. I'll create a frame. Once I create a frame, I'll just click grid, and immediately my grid has been created. So now that grid has been created, I can also come here and increase the number of what's it called? The number of cells, rows, and column that I want on this particular frame. So coming back to what we have this. If you decide to change the color, it's your choice how you want to roll. So we're having that. Then in this grid now, I can now come get my shape. So right now you can see that this element, see the options we have. We can see that on the position, we are having it align left, align to the top. So I want it aligned to the center, and I want it aligned to the center. So you can see how we've created grid without needing to go through the auto layout method. I hope you were able to pay attention and follow me through. Here, we created this grid by going through auto layout options. In the process of doing the auto layout, we saw the option for grid and we clicked on it and we had grid. And when we hovered around, we're having, as you can see, Figma is still naming it as an auto layout. You can see that if you hover around the icon, Figma is still naming it as an auto layout element or naming. So that's that. But here now, you see that here, I didn't go through auto layout method. I just created a frame. Then on the frame, I saw the options for I should I saw the flow options for me to create a grid, and I went along with it. Then created the grid. I inserted uh, a shape inside it. But when I inserted the shape, you can see that it gave me position instead of auto layout, the auto layout frame we had earlier. So that is why we had this. And following this alignment, I was able to put this thing to the middle. So the same thing here. Let me duplicate this. And as you can see, once you just drag it to the place you want, it captures it immediately. Then I could say, let me change this thing to circle. Then I have my circle. Then so it's not left for you and your spirit and your creative genius to decide what to do with how to play around with this. Some people could even start creating chess game with it. So it's all about creativity and how far your mind can go. But we'll still talk about we'll still talk about that. So now if you click on this, sorry, if you click on this grid, you could see these node points hovering around. So this node point now, I can see that this particular is on automatic, meaning that it is not fixed. So if I fix it to, let me say, 400, oh, sorry, 40. Let's do 40. So if I click set it to 40, you can see that the size of that column has been reduced to 40. So Control Z. If you need to control a specific row or a specific column, you could alter with the sizes and do it as you seem fit. So that is that. So back to here, because what brought us here was because we were talking about these elements. So we're talking about this, we're talking about this. So Control Z, Z, Z. So let's do this and see. Okay, free flow. This particular one, this free form, right now is not reacting and giving us anything visible. But that's all right. We still have other opportunities to shine and utilize them as we see fit. So that is that. Now, I've talked about this, I've talked about this. Okay. So the next thing now is for us to create an auto layout card. So to do that, let me go to my browser and search UI card. So we have this card samples that we'll be using. So now we want to use auto layout to create one of these. Let me look for a simpler card so that. Okay, so these are sample cards that have been designed with auto layout. So the one we'll be going for will be this. Is that an image or a text? Okay. So we'll be designing this particular one. So what I'm going to do is to copy the image and then come back to my Figma file and paste it. Perfect, um, to get a perfect circle. So I want it to be 100 by 100. So I just locked in the aspect ratio. Now, there is this plugin I have not told you guys about, and it's called the Unsplash plugin. The Unsplash plugin is a third-party plugin that enables you get high quality free version images in Figma rather than going to Pinterest. Though sometimes you cannot find what you're looking for on Splash. You might have to go to the internet or to Pinterest to get what you want. But on Splash is a very good plugin for you to know. So to get that, we're going to go to plugin. We're going to go to manage plugin, and then we're going to get to on Splash. So on Splash, once it comes up, we are going to say, yes, on Splash, this is you and we're looking for you. We need your services. So on Splash is loading. It's cooking up the amazing, beautiful interfaces we need to proceed in our designs. So Splash is loading. Splash, can you load faster? Splash is still loading. If you can see my screen, you can see that it's still loading, and we have to wait for it to give us what we need. So right now, welcome to Unsplash. So Unsplash is open, and we can see different amazing landscapes, different foods, colors, abstract images, cafes, a lot, especially abstract images. So depending on the ones that tickle your fancy, you are free to utilize them as you see fit. So come to search. When you come to search, search gives you the option to select a specific category, or for you to describe the image you're looking for. So I'm going to click here and say beautiful African lady profile. So I'll click search, and while on Splash cook up what it needs to cook up. So you can see my screen, you can see how beautiful these elements, these images are. So we're looking for a beautiful black woman to use as a profile picture. So I'm scrolling down so that you can see the different options. If you want a white woman, if you want, depending on how what you are designing for or who you are designing for, you are free to utilize these resources. And these images are free and is of very high quality. So you have that at your disposal to use as you seem fit. Because one thing you should know about designing, either graphics design or product design, is that if you're designing for a brand, especially a brand that let me say, for example, you're designing for MTN, you don't have to go to the internet like the normal browser or Google to come and start, or Facebook self to come and start using people's picture to put on a company product. The person might sue you, and they might sue this client you did the work for. And nobody would want a designer that is costing them money instead of making them money. So um, you should be mindful of the kind of pictures you use in your client's work. It could be flyer, it could be, that's why big companies like MTN and Google, they spend money to pay models to come to their studios, and they take the pictures, and the picture becomes their own property, the company property. So that's why some brands go to that far extent, just to avoid lawsuits of somebody who claimed that they took their picture from the internet and they viewed few years ago, when Sabino's image was used by Pick Milk for one of their flyers, why Sabino's had to go and sue them for 100 million naira. So these are the kind of things you should be getting yourself This is the kind of topics you should be getting yourself conversant with as a designer, to avoid such mistakes from your own end and from costing your clients their money and their time. So, but here on Splash, or whatever that is here on Splash is free to use. So nobody will sue you for this when you use from Unsplash. So the content on Unsplash is free for use. You can use as you seem fit. What I was stressing earlier was when just like Sabino's own. Sabino's is a content creator, well known in Nigeria and everywhere. But you could see how using his image created a court case for him and Pick Milk. So you have to be mindful of it like on Splash. Though most times some things you could be looking for, you might not see it on a Splash. And you have to improvise or depending on the kind of clients you're working for, you bring it to their attention and also budget for them to take pictures for clients. So you can take pictures of their own models so you can use the pictures and proceed with what you need to do. So now I'm back to write the name. So for the name, I would say so for the name I'm having this. So I'll just reduce the size. So we have the name, we have the text, we have the next one is the so I duplicated, which is I held down the hotkey, held down my keypad and dragged. So the next thing is the location. We'll say Enugu, comma Nigeria. So we have this. But looking at this and looking at this is where design principles come in. Before, when we started our class, well, I had to take you through the design elements and the design principles. And we talked about them at length. And right now, looking at this name, looking at the one I did, looking at this Kamsi Nobi and Enugu, Nigeria, you can see that there is no design hierarchy there. Both of them are just in equal um, in terms of class, they're in the same class. If in terms of let's say the middle class and the higher class, or the poor people, the poor masses, right now they belong to the same category. But that's why design principle comes in. Design principle help you highlight the most important information you would want the user to see immediately they see this card. Between this Kamses Zenobi and the location, which one is should be more important? The one that should be more important right now is the name of the person that the card belongs to. Meaning that this is important, but not as important as the name. So we are going to be reducing. This is 36. Let's do 24. So you can, though in terms of size, we will now know which one is more superior. But we also want to give it um we also want to give it hierarchy based on the text weight, that is the font type. So now looking at this now, you can see that everybody know the class they belong to. The name is saying location, I'm not your mate. Looking at me, I'm bigger in size. If anybody look, the first information they should see is the name of the person. The name of the person this card belongs to. So you can see you've used hierarchy, you've used contrast in terms of sizing, and yeah, we've done that by showing the difference. So to even put more emphasis on this particular font, because this what's it called? This Poppins regular is looking more, it's looking somehow. But yes, everybody knows the class they belong to, and it brings unity and clarity to what you are designing. So let's go to feather icon and shop for those dots, and you can see it here. So I click, it comes in. Remember that this size increase I'm doing is just to ensure that you people are seeing what I'm doing. Oh. You don't just go around and start increasing sizes like that. So why I'm doing it is to ensure that what why I'm doing it is to ensure that you are seeing it clearly. So we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. So the next one is what? This card that has, that means, so I'm going to go for cooking images. So for cooking images, we are seeing this, we are seeing all these beautiful and appetizing foods. They look so beautiful and appetizing. I'm beginning to salivate. Salivate. I need to make a choice real quick. I need to make a choice fast, 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 fast. That's one thing about coming to Unsplash. You get carried away. Okay, we need to go with this. Shop as you want. So we have this. So I'll use my scale tool and reduce it. Radius of 30. Good. This mine. The next thing we have is um these icons. So for these icons, so let me, so our card is coming together. So the next thing we have is those icons, and let's see it. Okay. Meaning we're going to go to shopping again and go to further icons. Search. This is a comment icon. This is a love icon. This is a share or see comment icon. So we have this. Okay, it has appeared. So we'll go for the next one. So I'll click outside here to highlight the selection. So I'll click as I will select back and search favorites. Favorites. Let me search love and see if I can see love. Yeah, okay, okay. I have love. So I have the love icon. Then let me see if I have share. Okay, let's check send. So I have the send icon. So we have send. The next one is what? Favorite icon. So we're going to search favorites. Sorry, I can be bookmark. So have the bookmark icon. So is there any other icon we need to shop for? Right now, the answer is no. So goodbye to to feather icon. It's now time for us to gather our icon and place them how they should be. So I'll place this one. I'll come and pick my message or comment icon. Sorry, Control Z. So the next one is the love icon. So right now I have this. So let me check the size. I gave this 56.2, but let me reduce it to 42. Yeah. So now I'm going to select all these icons and also give them 42 as their default. So I have this. Align it properly and give it a font color of. So right now, sorry, this, what's it called? These icons, their main ground is dark. So I want you to be seeing what I'm doing. So when we put it in an auto layout, I will need to change it back to black, because by then we'll have a white background. So the reason why I am making it white now is because our background is black, and I need you to be seeing everything that I'm doing so that it will make sense to you. So now we have this, everything is coming along. What else do we have? This write up and the date and the time. So in order to do that, I already have this. I already have this. So I don't need to come and start rebuilding anything from scratch again. I'll just duplicate them. So now I'll now type liked by cherish cherish baby and 101, sorry, others. So we have this. Now you can also see from here that this and this are not having the same um, font size. So for this, I'll need to tailor it down, give it 24, give it irregular poppings, then give it 32, and we can see that this and this. So we're having this. Then next thing we have is the day, the date, and the month and the year. So today's date is Friday. So we'll have Friday, comma, 08 August 2025. Hi, what a journey. Yes, so we've gathered our elements. So the purpose of all this is to convert this to an auto layout card, meaning that we want it to be responsive, because auto layout is about making creating a frame that will expand or shrink to accept or accommodate elements that you put inside it. So that is the purpose of auto layout. And the elements in this card can change at any time. Maybe the client can say, I don't want this image again, or I don't want this, I want it to be square. Instead of rebuilding the whole thing from scratch, auto layouts will be able to adjust to accept the image you are imputing, or shrink to accept a circular image, a rectangular image, and the rest of it. So that is the purpose of creating an auto, going through what we just went through now. So now we've brought our elements. Remember that all these things that are existing on their own, we just did that baby step with I taught you. That's why I started this class by teaching you how to do it, as by teaching you how to do it like a baby. Ehen. So if you don't know how to do it like a baby, I wonder how you would catch up with these advanced steps that we are taking now. If you have any question, as I can see, nobody's in class today, but if you have any question, you let me know on the Discord channel, and we can go through them. I will answer your questions, and also I would want you to pay detailed attention to understand everything I'm saying. If you just pay attention and ensure that you're not distracted, you understand what I'm saying. I am explaining it in the easiest and layman's way of doing it, just to ensure that this is not a physical class, it's an online class. And a lot of questions might going on in your head, and I might not be there to answer it all the time. So to avoid that waste of time and effort and all these things. That is why I am explaining the way I'm explaining it, to ensure that even in my absence, you won't need me, because everything I've said, if you just pay attention and see what I'm doing, you are covered. So now moving forward, it is time to start applying auto layout to this. So now that we want to start applying auto layout, which of these belong to a certain group? Now, if you look at this now, this and this, they belong, like, okay, let's go back to our sample. Let me use our sample. You can see that both of them are a unit, meaning that they should be grouped together. But instead of grouping now, what we are doing is auto layout. We are no longer doing grouping. Grouping was when you were learning it as a baby. Right now, we are moving to becoming a professional designer. This and this, they belong to the same place. That means we should auto layout them together. So when I say auto layout them together, meaning we're going to do Shift A to put them in an auto layout frame. So when you hear me say auto layout them together, it means I'm saying group it. But right now we're not doing Control G anymore. We are doing Shift A. So this and this, we should auto layout them together. So when we've auto layout them together, it is now a new auto layout on its own, meaning a new group. Now, that new group now, we'll have to auto layout it with this image, because they belong to the same side of the card. They belong to the left side of the card. So we need them to be united. We also auto layout that one together. Now, we have this one that is existing on the right side of this village. Even though it is existing in the right side of this village, it also belongs to the top side of this village. Right now, I'm calling the card a village so that you understand properly. I'm using different scenarios so that you don't get confused. So they all belong to the top of the card, meaning that since we've made this one and this one an auto layout, and made the auto layout of this one an auto layout, that new auto layout of all these ones, we have to auto layout it with this other one. Now all of them has become one, showing that they are the ones residing on the top side of this village. Now that one is done. We have our image. Our image is existing on its own, so we don't need to make it an auto layout. We'll leave it the way it is. Now, coming down here now, we have these icons, one, two, three. You can see that all of them belong to the same position, and they belong to the left side of the card. Now, the three of them, we'll select the three of them and do auto layout on them. They will become one auto layout. Now, looking by the left, we have this other one existing on its own in the right side of the village. Now that we've made this one an auto layout, we have to make That new auto layout we've made from these three, we have to use it, like hold on to it, plus this one, and create a new auto layout. So you could ask, why can't we just select the four of them and make them auto layout together? Remember that we have the auto layout property that allows us define the spacings, the amount of spacing we want between each of these elements. So if you go and make the four of them at the same time to have the same, like just select the four of them and make them auto layout at once, they will just come together and be sharing two, maybe for example, two space or 20 space amongst themselves. But looking at this design, you can see that these three have the same spacings, but this one, look at the space between this and this. These people are living on the left side of the village, and look at this one living on the right side of the village. So, but when we make these three auto layout first, then that their auto layout plus this one living on the left side of the village will now make them an auto layout. It will help us define the spaces between the auto layout that is carrying that tree and this other one in in the left side of the village. So when we have made this one auto layout, then make their auto layout plus this one a new auto layout, we now have a single auto layout carrying them. Then that one is fine. Then we come down here now. We have this and this text. We'll now do auto layout on them. Now they now belong, they now have their own auto layout. Then that their auto layout and this other one, we now have to do an auto layout on them again. So we now have three total elements. This one existing on its own, this one existing on its own, and this auto layout that is carrying all these ones. So you will have nested auto layout inside an auto layout inside an auto layout. So now that I've given that brief, clear, it's not brief, a clear intro, it's time for us to go. So I'll click on this, hold down my shift key, and also click on this. So you can see that both of them are now selected. What do I need to do? Shift A. Voila, they have become an auto layout. A location. The spacings amongst them is 9. And since I've advised that if you're working, you should work with the multiples of 8. 8, 4, 16, 12, 24, 32. It have a nice rhythm to your measurements when the developer starts developing it. So now we have this. This is now an auto layout. So we need to make this new auto layout and this image. So I'll hold the image and select. These two need to be their own auto layout. So Shift A now. I have the auto layout. Now the spacings among them, I'm going to use 12, which is still a multiple of 8. Now we have this, and it's time to add this other one. Then I'll select these two and do what? Shift A. We have an auto layout. And now, looking at this, you can see that this new auto layout has pushed this our three dots up. But looking at our design, the three dots is not up. It should be in the middle. Yeah, it should be in the middle, not even down. So how do I apply it? That's where this alignment I was talking about comes in. I'll make it to the center. So you could say, why didn't I do it to the center here? Even if I do it to the center here, it's the same thing. But um, yeah. So because I want, even if the card starts to expand, maybe after designing the whole card and I start dragging the width and it starts to expand, how do I want the card to react? Do I want the elements in the card to stay on the left and be aligning and be stretching out, or do I want it to be in the center and to be stretching out? So a normal design should be, everything should go from the left. Depends on how you want these things to react. So me, I'm going to go with align left. I want that, if look at it, for example, now if I start stretching it, can you see the elements are still there? That's what it entails. So Control Z. For if I do it align, what's it called? Align left middle. See, can you see? It will start following now. So that is what this does. So Control Z. So I want, if the card, if I make it center now, this, no matter how the card is being stretched, the elements will maintain its left position. So Control Z. So now you can see that we have successfully made this one an auto layout. See, we now have auto layout inside an auto layout inside an auto layout. It's being housed by another auto layout. So we have that. So our card, there's no much drama to our card. So we'll come here. So I'll just hold my this thing and select. I don't have time for selecting individually. So I'll do Shift A. So now that I have Shift A, the spacing between them is telling me 22. That it should be 8. Then, now that I have it as an auto layout, I'll hold down Shift, select again, and I'm having this. See, I have an auto layout. Now I have this, Shift A, and the spacings amongst them to be 8. I have that as an auto layout. So this auto layout now, plus this auto layout, I'll make them an auto layout. So we have three this thing. So what do I need to do? I'll select this, select the shape, and select this one, and Shift A. Now I have one general auto layout that is forming the auto layout card. And what do I do? It is time to give it a background color. So before I give background color, let me first of all change my text to what's it called? To black. But instead of black, I'm going to use a dark gray called 333. So now if I give it a fill, so you can now see that our card is ready. So give yourself a round of applause. But now that our card is ready, it's not done. It's ready. It's taking shape, but it's not done. So what looking at our card and looking at this other card, what is missing? You can see that in this other card, it has corner radius, it has well-defined pad elements. They are all hitting the boundaries. No padding. There is no padding to it. So you can see here, we have the top and the down padding. So let me go with 24. You can see it. Then let's go with 24. We'll have this. So let's go with 32 by the width. Okay. Yeah, I think the 32 is better. Yeah. So we have this. So now that we have this, it's still not giving us what it needs to give. Then I'm going to give it a corner radius of 20. Yes, it's coming together. And it's now time to zoom in. So now that we're zooming in, what's it called? Looking at this now, looking at this one, we can see that it's overflowing. And looking at the text, looking at the margin between the other subtle layers and the subtle layers, we're having it to be 125. So I'll reduce it to bring it in. On a normal, these texts are very big, but I said I'm making it big so that you can see what I'm doing very clearly. So we have that. And then we'll come to this other one. You can see it's on automatic. So I want it on a specific number so I can control the spacings amongst it. Now also clicking on this new auto layout, you can see that it's overflowing. So I can control that. And then the spaces between this and this is way too much. So what do I do? We'll control it. So zooming out now, we can see that our card is coming to life. So the spacings amongst them is way crazy. So I'm going to work on the spacings and it's coming to life. So looking at this, we have this. And just like I told you earlier, I know that my text and here I can see that the space is still too much. So I'll make it. Is there another thing I need to adjust? The icons are too. They are just too big. So So by default, your icon, what's it called? 24, yeah, 24, 24. So when I downloaded these icons, they were 24. I was the one that stretched them out so that you can see what I'm doing. So now that I'm done with my card and everything is now visible, I'm making corrections where it needs to be made. And here, so my icons need to go back to their default sizes. And also, this name is too big, Jerry. Let me work on the name. Okay. So most times you might even have a negative value of -4. So you can see what -4 does. So most times you could be left with that. I think I'll go with the -4. Looks better. So the profile icon, so we're having that. So at this point, if you have any question, you should let me know. At our card now and what we have in the sample, you can see that we've achieved our auto layout. So I still need to control the spacings between these things because I think I'm working with too much space. So I'm going with 24. And let's see what 24 looks like. Let me go with 60. Having this, and I think this is good. Now, let's, but this card is still not responsive. So Control Z, this card is not responsive. How did we know? We can see that the only thing stretching out is what? The rectangle. This other are not responsive. So to correct that, I'm just working this in now looking at the that's the housing of it to call. Let me go inside and see the name is and see some of you. This is on work. Let's expand. So now let's stretch the auto layout card again and see if it is responsive. Stretching out is so we have the let's put it before then. Let's do the next. Let's ask it to fill the container. Coming to the individual elements, coming to the next element inside it, letting it to fill the container. So right now, let's try it again and see how it responds. So you can see what is card is responding. So we've achieved that for this. Then to fill the container. Then coming into it, we're asking this other one to also fill the container. Then coming to this other one, this other auto layout, we're asking it to fill the container. And to this text, we're asking it is already by default filling the container. And this other one by default filling the container. So now let's see how they respond based on the size of the frame. So we're expanding the size of the container. So as you can see, the top part is responding, but this down part is still not responding. So Control Z to check what the problem is. So I'll click again. It is filling. It is filling. Okay, so these ones are on hog. These ones are on hog. So they're just hugging instead of filling the container. So let's try again and see how it responds. So everything down is responding except this icon. So we need to go back to the icon part again and check what their problem is. So I'll go back to the icon. It's filling. It's filling the container. It's filling the container. Okay, so Control Z. This one has the limit. Let me see if it was set to. It seems to have a limit to where it stops. Where am I getting it wrong? Not few. Control Z. So these three dots is responding, but this bookmark is not responding. Let me see the setting I used for. Some few 204. Let me see the spacing I used for this. Okay, 204. I use 204s for the spacings between the upper distance I use. Okay, respond now. Yeah, it's not responding. It's responding. So you can see the challenges we encountered in the process of trying to make it respond. So now let's say that the client decides to say, I don't want this rectangle. Maybe I should replace it with an ellipse. Now let's see if it's going to react properly. So Control C, Control Shift R, Control Shift R. So so you can see how it works. Let me put an image in it. So we have this circle. Since we moved from rectangle to circle, the circle is following that left positioning. That is why it's not in the center. So now if I click on this auto layout frame and ask it to align to the center, can you see how the circle adjusted to that? So now let's try another responsiveness. Let's say the client doesn't want to answer this anymore and ask you to change. So you can see how it is responding. It's responding this way because it's why it had to break down was because by default the spacing we created for this auto layout and this it exhausted it and then had to enter into another line unless you by default sorry unless you by default sorry by manual this thing control Z unless you manually stretch it out to break into the line. But clicking on this now, you can see that it is showing you that it has exhausted the line you asked it to. Like it has exhausted the the frame. Look at the frame, yeah. So if you click at the frame and click, you can see that it is overflowing it. So unless I decide to, okay, frame, come here. I need you to expand beyond this. Or I'll ask the frame to hug the content. Then also do the same for this other one and ask it to, instead of filling it, you should hug it. So you can see that it is hugging it. But in terms of hugging it, it is now pushing the other one away. So you can still do that, but you now have to come and reset. You now have to come and reset. You now have to come and reset the spacing between them. So instead of that 204 now, I'll drag it back to this. Now having 108. So these are the things you could encounter going forward. So the once you've mastered these auto layout adjustment tools, you will know when to apply anyone. It is not automatic. It doesn't just there are sometimes you finish a design, you have to come and start making these tiny changes just to ensure that everything appears properly. So I believe if you had listened properly till now, you should have understood and being in flow and in tune with everything that I've said. But if you have any question, nobody's in class today, but that's why the program had made sure that this is a pre-recorded class so that at your own leisure time you can come back and watch and practice at your own pace. So as you practice and move forward or progress and you have any challenge, just get through to me. You already have my email. You can chat me on the Discord channel and I will respond as quickly as I can. So if you have gotten to this stage, I'm proud of you. And if you did everything and it is going perfectly, I'm also proud of you. But it's also advisable that you give yourself the ability and the opportunity to fail at this stage. Failure is part of the steps to success. Nobody just wakes up and succeed. And even if you wake up and succeed, there is no guarantee that you will maintain that success. Because in failure, we learn a lot of things. We learn patience, we learn clarity, we learn to ask questions, we seek answers. And if you don't fail and seek those answers, even when you start failing, the ego and pride will blind you from doing what you need to do to grow. So don't be ashamed to fail. Don't be ashamed to ask questions. You have me, you have the Discord channel, you have YouTube. You can also go to YouTube and hear from other tutors on what they are saying, maybe to give you a clearer perspective. But if you need more in depth answers and explanations, I am here for you. And I'm so happy to be going on this journey with you guys. The sky is your starting point, and I can't wait for you great designers to join us in the field. Africa has a lot of opportunities, and Africa has a lot of sectors that needs these skills. And that is how wealth is made. Basically, money is about providing value. When you provide solution to somebody, they give you money for your time, energy, and years of experience. So I just want you to remember that you're not wasting your time and you're on the right path. So just be dedicated, put in the time, put in the effort, pay your dues, so that few months and few years from now, when you start earning in dollars, or maybe the project you're part of is paying you for life, you will be like, yes, I paid the dues, I paid the price, I practiced, I learned, I dedicated my time, energy, and attention, and I'm happy that today it is bearing fruit. So I'm super proud of everyone on this program, and I can't wait to see you on Monday. So by Monday, I believe we'll have a full class. I need some of you in our live class. It helps, your questions helps drive clarity and also make it more enjoyable. So take care, and I'm wishing you all the best. See you on Monday. Bye.